This is lesson 3 in the series involving the usage of Easel. Let's do our login as we did in the past. We'll type in Inventables and do our sign in. All right, we can see in our panel here that we have the last 2 lessons that we did. And I'm going to bring up the one we did for lesson 2 because we didn't name that. So we'll bring it up. We'll go up to Untitled, and we'll call this Easel, lesson 2. And we'll close it. Now if we go back to our panel, we'll see that we have Easel lesson 1 and Easel lesson 2. So let's start a new project, which will eventually be Easel lesson 3. And let's go move down on the menu on the left side here. We did a little bit on text. The next thing we're going to do is look at the Pro Design library. Now, it says Pro Design, but there are designs that you can get from here, even though you're in the basic. You can see that while the new ones are all Pro Designs, the basic ones, if I wanted to bring in, let's say, the gingerbread cookie, I could bring it in various formats depending upon whether it was a fill, or an outline. Notice inside, outside. These are all the options you have when you do the cut. I'll go to the cut screen. So I bring it up, and I still have those same options here. I can clear out a pocket, so I can change it here just as we did bringing it in. But we picked this because we liked it. We can make it a little bigger, a little smaller, move it around. As always, we can center it by going to the Edit menu and center the material. And if you go over and look on the right side at what is actually happening, we have a little problem, don't we? We're missing parts of the character. As I make it bigger, though, then we can see them. So this is the same problem we had in the previous lesson, where we see we're missing a little bit down here now. So it looks like the smallest I can make it is about like there. But we notice because we're using an 1/8" bit, that's the best we can do. We can't make it any smaller than that. If we go to a 1/16" bit, as we learned in the past, we can now go smaller and still maintain the figure that we wanted. Go quite a bit smaller, can't we? So maybe a 1/16" bit would be more suitable for this particular project. Again, these are kinds of things that you just have to keep focusing on because they can kind of mess up your output, and sometimes you really don't know why something is happening. But if you break it down and look closely, you should be able to figure it out. Again, they bring this up a little bit so you actually have a character that's reasonable. A little bit bigger. There we go. Now we got it all. So, notice that the width is 3.3 and height is about 4.3. So that's the minimum we can do for that particular object. So let's go over to the Pro Design library and see what else is out there. We looked in the basics, look in the animal designations. This one, looking at antlers, just looking at it gives me an idea. This is a fill, and that makes sense to carve out the entire body. Let me bring this up here. But certainly for the antlers and so forth, in order to carve out the body, we know the antlers have to be at least 1/8 inch wide for this to work. So we're going to have to make this pretty big before we can get antlers to show up over here. In a minute, I'll try and get it a little bigger. Let's see what we can do. Oh, look out, I'm moving the wrong guy. Oh, I moved an eye by mistake. Here's a feature that I haven't shown you yet, but it's very useful in these situations. I meant to grab the entire object, and what I did was grab a piece of it. I'm going to use Control Z to get me back to where I want it to be. Now I can move the whole item. See, I've highlighted the whole thing, or what appears to be the whole thing, but it's not. Again, Control Z gets me back. But if I highlight everything here, notice it's also picking up the deer. We didn't want that. See if we can move this one without. Yeah, this one moves a little easier. Okay, but you can see if I highlight the whole thing, I can move the whole thing. But if I'm not careful and try to do something like this, I'm going to be missing parts of it when I try to move it. So have to be very careful here. But again, Control Z is your friend. You make a mistake, just use the Control Z to move backwards, and you should be in good shape. All right? But back to the original thought here. To get these antlers to work, we're really going to have to make this big. In fact, it may not even fit on this board. Yeah, it's not even going to fit on this board. We would have to make this board probably a 12 by 12 at least. And this running deer would have basically take up the whole board before we can see the antlers. But what else could we do with something like this? If you notice, let me bring it down a little smaller. If you notice, the body of the deer, the legs and the tail and so forth, seem to be okay. Let's see if we can pick out. Now this one doesn't let you do it. Sometimes you're able to pick out just the antlers and use your cut screen to cut on a shape like that. All right? And then you could do the whole thing. As you can see here, this is certainly a solution that we could use. You do see the antlers and the outline of a deer, even though I prefer the look of the doing a pocket, carving out the pocket. This is probably your only solution for this particular drawing. So I'm going to delete this drawing. I'm going to go up to Edit and hit Remove. I'm going to do Control Z to show you. Control Z brings it back. If I highlight it and hit the Delete key, it's the same as Remove. Just two different ways of doing the same thing. Go back to the Pro Design Library and let's look at some of the things that you might want. The cups and holiday things. Holiday things is that same figure again. Here's one for Easter you might want, or there's a bell that kind of would be nice around the holidays. And there's a Christmas tree. Of course, that's always something that is useful. So we'll click on that. Now we've got a Christmas tree here. And again, as always, we can change the size of it and do lots of things with it. You can also do an outline on it. Change the cut to on the shape path. There you go. Go outside the shape path because it's a little bigger. But I prefer on the shape path for this particular one. So, what else do we have out there? Music, nature, patterns. Patterns are nice. You can use these for fill in a lot of areas. So if you have, let's say, I'll bring this one in. Let's say I wanted to fill the Christmas tree with this. It's a little hard to do, but you could drag this shape around and fill up the Christmas tree with some, again, look at the bit size. We have to create a much smaller bit, I am sure, to make that work. Yeah, much smaller. Let's see how big we got to go before we. Yeah, now you're starting to see something there as we get way out there. Alright, so that particular one wouldn't work very well, would it? But again, you could get the idea that you can actually do this. Now I'm going to show you something else here in a second. This one, hang on. This one lets you do pieces of it. Look at this. So I could do that little bit and make it bigger. Yeah. So I can make that little part of it bigger. Again, each shape is a little different, and you'll just have to play with them to get used to it. Let me move this out of the way. And I'll try and get rid of all of this. All right, got it all. I'm going to hit the delete key, and now we're good there. I bring the Christmas tree back into the usable area here. Okay, so that's the Pro Design Library. But here's something interesting I'll show you, because we'll move away from the Pro Design Library. Oh, by the way, the Pro Design Library is nothing more than some drawings that are done in SVG format. SVG is a file type. It's structured vector graphics. And basically, it's a 2D CAD, so to speak. But it also has depth. So this particular character here, the Christmas tree, also has depth to it. It's being cut at 1/8 of an inch. That can be saved within the SVG file structure. So this is what we'll be using for the most part for CNC work, since CNC work that we are doing, which is essentially two-dimensional plus the fact that we're moving Z up and down to create cut paths, etc. So it's really, I'll kind of call it 2D CAD plus, and the SVG file is the standard for that. So let's look at something else that we can do. There are some applications that Inventables has done, and some users have contributed, that give you some incredible objects that are easy to work with and quick to make. Let's go back to I'm going to click on the Christmas tree. And now I'm going to go back to my apps. And remember where we were trying to get texture before? Since I've selected something that I want to fill, now I can look at it and it'll fit within that. So maybe I'll find something that, some stars maybe. I don't know if that looks good. What about corkscrew? Don't know. Yeah, it's a little different, isn't it? But you can play around with these and come up with something that really looks attractive in the inside the tree. Morphing diamonds, I don't know what that is, but that's a nice looking thing. All right, that looks great. We'll go with that. All right, so we'll move that in. Oh, forgot to save it. Hang on. Let me go back. Go back to texture. There we go. Go down. Let me go back and pick the right one here. There we go. Which ones do we want? It was down here somewhere. Morphing diamonds, there it was. And that's the one I kind of liked. So I'm going to move over to this side and import it. Now it fits inside my Christmas tree. But looking over on the right side, what do we have? Even at 1/16 of an inch, we're showing nothing over there. So let's go and highlight this and see what it's doing. It's cutting on the shape path, but there's no cut depth. So let's bring the depth down a little bit. I'm going to call it 50 thousandths. That's what I find it works about the best on that bit. So we've got 50 thousandths, but we're going to cut on the shape. All right? And let's see what we have over here. Well, now we have something that kind of looks like a tree. I think if we make it bigger, we'll have a little more detail. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So what happened here? Oh, I forgot to include the whole thing. Let me go to Control Z and get the whole thing this time. Okay, and I'll make the whole thing bigger. That's a little better. Okay. So now you can see our Christmas tree with the new shapes within it. So you have to play around with this stuff to get anything out of it. Obviously, there's a lot of variation in what we do here. So anyway, kind of fun doing it. Other things in here that might be interesting, I like the texture. You can do mazes, all kinds of different things here. I'm trying to think of one other down here I really liked. This path warp, it works on everything, but so you could warp a line segment or something like that, but you can't warp text with that. You need the pro version to do text. Equal spacing, that's kind of, this one up here I used a little bit. It's a polygon generator. This is kind of neat. I told it I want to go put a 6-sided one. And the radius, I just happen to know this one, 0.2515. And import that. Okay. And click on that and bring it up a little bit. Come on, you. There we go. Bring it up a little bit. I like that because that's the shape of a 1/4-20 hex nut. So that fits nicely. I've used that for some other projects in the past. That's how I knew the radius, proper radius for it. Anyway, those are the kind of things you can do with the applications. They're really great tools. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you can, I'd like to see you get in there and play around with all this stuff. The only way you learn it is to go in and just try it. That's the best thing to do. All right, so we'll see you on the next lesson.